I was 3 days away from disappearing. Bags half packed. Resignation letter sitting in my draft. Flight booked for Sunday morning. I had already said my quiet goodbyes to the city that chewed me up for 6 years and gave me nothing but debt and a job where my boss forgot my name every other Monday. Then, at 9:47 p.m. on a Thursday, the most powerful man I had ever met walked into my office, closed the door behind him, and said 4 words that detonated my entire life. I need your help. Cole Ashford. 34. $6.2 billion. The kind of man that entire rooms rearrange themselves around without being asked. He never came to anyone. People came to him. He never asked for anything. He acquired it. But there he was, standing in front of my desk like the world had tilted slightly and dropped him in my direction. And something in his eyes, something I had never seen in 2 years of watching him from a very careful distance, looked almost like desperation. I should have pointed at the door. Instead, I said, "Sit down." And that was the moment everything cracked open. He didn't sit. Cole Ashford didn't sit in chairs that weren't his. He stood by the window with his hands in his pockets, looking out at the city like a man taking inventory of everything he stood to lose. "My grandfather is dying," he said. I stayed quiet. Powerful men feel silence on their own. He's leaving everything to me. 6.2 billion in assets. 43 companies. Real estate across 9 countries. But there is one condition in the will. He turned and looked at me directly. I have to be married. Before the month ends. That is in 4 weeks. 26 days. And you are here because I need someone I trust. He said it flat, like trust was just another line item. Someone smart enough to handle the public side of this. Discreet enough not to complicate it. Professional enough not to confuse the arrangement for something it isn't. What happens if you don't marry? Something crossed his face. Fast. Then gone. Everything goes to my cousin Derek. Everyone in the firm knew Derek Ashford. The kind of man who smiled with all his teeth and none of his eyes. If Cole was cold steel, Derek was something rotting underneath a very expensive coat. "He'll dismantle everything," Cole said quietly. "Every company. Every team. Thousands of people out of work in 6 months so he can cash out and vanish." The office was very still. "I'm asking you, Nadia. 6 months. A legal marriage on paper. A public arrangement. When it ends, you walk away with enough to rebuild your life anywhere in the world." He slid a piece of paper across the desk. I looked at the number. My throat closed. It was enough to erase my mother's medical debt. Cover every loan. Buy me 2 years of real freedom to figure out what I actually wanted from this one life I had. "You don't even know me," I said. "I know you more than you think." He picked up his jacket from the back of the chair he never sat in. 2 years at this firm. You have never once taken credit for work that wasn't yours. You flagged a billing error last quarter that could have cost a client $400,000 and you told no one you flagged it. He paused. I noticed. Something happened in my chest that I refused to examine. "Separate rooms," I said. He nodded. "No feelings. No bloodlines. Strictly professional." "Agreed. I want everything in writing. Every term. Every exit clause. I would expect nothing less." I looked at the number one more time. I thought about my mother. About Sunday's flight. About 6 years of being unseen in a city that never once looked back. "Okay," I said. "But I have conditions too." For the first time in 2 years, Cole Ashford smiled at me. It was barely there. It absolutely wrecked me. Before I signed that contract, I did something Cole didn't know about. I ran his name. Not the public record. Not the Forbes profile. I dug into the sealed litigation files I wasn't supposed to have access to. And I found something that made my hand freeze over the signature line. 3 years ago, Cole had been engaged. Her name was Vanessa. Beautiful. Sharp. A woman who moved in all the same circles. They were 6 weeks from the wedding when Cole called it off overnight with no public explanation. The rumor inside the firm was that she had betrayed him. Used information about his business dealings to help a competitor. That it broke something in him he never rebuilt. What the rumor didn't include, what I found buried in a 3-year-old internal memo, was the name of the person who fed Vanessa that information in the first place. Derek Ashford. Cole's own cousin had destroyed his engagement to make sure Cole stayed emotionally unavailable. Isolated. So that when the time came, there would be no one standing beside him. No one to protect him from losing everything. Derek had been planning this for 3 years. And I had just walked straight into the middle of it. I signed the contract anyway. Because if Derek thought I was going to make this easy for him, he had never met a woman with nothing left to lose. By Saturday morning I was standing in the middle of a penthouse with one suitcase feeling like a woman who had either made the bravest decision of her life or the most catastrophic one. The place was stunning and cold. All glass and clean lines and the kind of silence that costs money to maintain. A housekeeper named Gloria showed me to my room, which was larger than my entire apartment, and told me Mr. Ashford was in a meeting but dinner would be at 7. Dinner was at a table long enough to seat 12. Just the two of us at opposite ends, like a painting of two people who had forgotten how to be near anyone. "You don't have to sit all the way down there," I said. He picked up his plate and moved 2 seats closer. Progress. We went over logistics over pasta I barely tasted. Public appearances twice a week minimum. A joint interview with a lifestyle magazine in 3 weeks. Meet the grandfather by Wednesday. Wear the ring starting Monday. He slid a small box across the table without ceremony. I opened it. The ring was breathtaking. Simple. A single emerald-cut diamond that caught the light like it had been waiting for something. "It was my grandmother's," he said, looking at his food. I looked up at him. He didn't look back. I put it on. It fit perfectly. I told myself that meant nothing. I told myself that very firmly, twice, before I went to bed. I did not sleep. The first 2 weeks were painfully professional. We moved through the arrangement like two people executing a project plan. Appearances were scheduled. Stories were aligned. We practiced answers to questions reporters might ask. How did you meet? What do you love about her? What does he do that surprises you? He practiced his answers like a man memorizing lines. I practiced mine like a woman trying not to say too much. The first crack happened in a Monday morning partners meeting. I was presenting a restructuring proposal I had been working on for 3 months. Halfway through, one of the senior partners, a man named Griffith who had talked over me in every meeting for 2 years, interrupted me mid-sentence to redirect the conversation to someone else. I stopped talking. And then Cole's voice came from the end of the table. Quiet. Absolute. She wasn't finished. The room went still. Griffith blinked. I was just suggesting. Let her finish. Nobody interrupted me again. After the meeting I caught up with Cole in the hallway and said, "I didn't need you to do that." "I know," he said, and kept walking. I stood in the hallway for 10 seconds trying to remember how to breathe. The second crack happened at his family dinner 3 weeks in. His Aunt Margery was the kind of woman who asked questions that were actually weapons. She cornered me near the fireplace with a glass of wine and a smile sharp enough to cut. "So tell me, Nadia. What exactly do you bring to Cole's world?" I smiled back at her. "Honestly, I bring the kind of perspective that comes from building something with your own hands instead of inheriting it. Cole finds it refreshing. You might too, if you tried it." Dead silence. Then Cole laughed. Not a polite chuckle. A real laugh. Full and sudden and completely unguarded. He laughed like a man who had forgotten he knew how. His aunt looked scandalized. I felt like I had won something significant. Later that night, driving home, he glanced over at me at a red light and said, "No one has ever spoken to Marguerite like that and survived." "I'm still here," I said. He looked back at the road. But the corner of his mouth stayed lifted for the rest of the drive. I made a rule with myself that night. Do not read into the small things. Do not collect them like they mean something. This is a contract. 6 months. Then you are free. I broke that rule almost immediately. 4 weeks in, a deal in London required us both. The hotel suite had 2 rooms. Technically. But the second room had a plumbing issue and facilities apologized profusely and offered to move us to separate floors entirely. Cole looked at me. I looked at Cole. "It's fine," I said. "We are adults." It was not fine. It was a beautiful suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city and one very large sofa that I claimed immediately and one man who spent the first 2 hours pretending to work at the desk while I pretended to read. At midnight I gave up on the book and went to stand on the balcony. He came out 10 minutes later with 2 cups of coffee. He remembered I didn't take sugar. I had mentioned it exactly once, 5 weeks ago. We stood there for a while without talking. London spread out below us like a lit-up map of everywhere else we could have been. "Why were you really leaving?" he asked. I looked at the city. "I felt invisible," I said. "I worked harder than anyone in that building and it never mattered. I kept thinking if I just did more, proved more, eventually someone would see it. But nobody was looking." I paused. So I decided to stop waiting to be seen and just go somewhere new and start over. He was quiet for a long moment. "I see you, Nadia." I turned to look at him. "I think I always have," he said. "I just didn't have a reason to say it out loud before now. I didn't know what to do with that. So I looked back at the city and held my coffee with both hands and told myself the warmth in my chest was just the drink." We stayed on that balcony until 2 in the morning. He told me about his grandfather. About building his first company at 22 with a loan he couldn't afford to default on. About the years of choosing work over everything else until work was the only thing left. I told him about my mother. About studying by phone flashlight during the years the electricity got cut. About the scholarship essay I rewrote 11 times because getting it wrong was not an option. By the time we went back inside, something between us had shifted so completely that the room felt like a different room. Neither of us named it. But we both felt it. The almost kiss happened 1 week after London. A rooftop event. A charity gala for a children's hospital. The kind of night where the lights are low and the music is slow and the whole city glitters below you like it's trying to impress someone. We had been talking to donors all evening. Playing the role. His hand at the small of my back. My laugh timed perfectly. We were very good at the performance by now. But somewhere around 10 o'clock the performance stopped and it was just us standing at the edge of the rooftop with the wind doing something cinematic to the moment. He turned to look at me. I turned to look at him. He reached up and moved a strand of hair from my face with a kind of careful slowness that had nothing to do with performance. His forehead dropped toward mine. The space between us became almost nothing. The city noise faded. My heart was so loud I was certain he could hear it. His lips were a breath away. His phone rang. He pulled back. Answered it. Walked 3 steps away and became CEO Cole again in the space of 4 seconds. I turned back to the city and gripped the railing and told myself I was not disappointed. I was devastated. But I told myself I wasn't. Everything fell apart on a Sunday. We had been at the Ashford estate for a family lunch. Grandfather Edmund was having a good day. He sat at the head of the table looking at Cole and me with the quiet satisfaction of a man who believed he had finally fixed something important. I liked Edmund. He was sharp and warm, and he squeezed my hand when he thought no one was looking and whispered, "He smiles more now. Whatever you are doing, keep doing it." I smiled back and tried not to think about the exit clause. Derek was there too. Perfectly dressed. Perfectly charming. He hugged me hello like we were old friends, and I felt every hair on my arm stand up. After lunch, while I was in the garden with Edmund, Derek pulled Cole inside. I didn't know what was said in that room. But I saw Cole's face when he came back out. The warmth was gone. Every wall was back up. He looked at me the way he had looked at me on the very first day. Like I was a problem he was trying to calculate. The drive home was silent. I asked him 3 times if something was wrong. 3 times he said, "I'm fine." He was not fine. Over the next 4 days he became a stranger. 4 more emails instead of text. Dinner cancelled twice. A coldness so precise it felt deliberate. Like he was constructing distance the way he constructed everything else. With intention. On the 5th day I walked into his home office, closed the door, and said, "Tell me what happened." He didn't look up from his laptop. "Nothing happened. We have an arrangement. Let's not complicate it." "Cole. I have work, Nadia. Look at me." He looked up. And what I saw in his eyes was not coldness. It was something much worse. It was hurt. Buried under 6 feet of control, but absolutely there, raw and real and bleeding quietly. "Whatever Derek told you," I said, "it isn't true." Something flickered. Fast. Then his expression locked back down. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." He stood up. "This conversation is over." "Cole." I said, "It's over." I stood there for 3 seconds looking at the man I had spent 5 weeks slowly falling for and felt the floor go completely hollow beneath me. Then I walked out. I did not pack that night. I sat on my bed in the dark and I let myself feel the full weight of every feeling I had been pretending not to have. Every small moment I had collected like they were mine to keep. The coffee without sugar. The laugh at the dinner table. The balcony in London. The rooftop. His forehead against mine. None of it was mine. It never was. All is lost. By the end of the week I had made my decision. The legal conditions of the will had been met. The marriage was registered. Edmund was satisfied. Cole's inheritance was secure. I had done what I agreed to do. It was time to go. I booked the flight I should have taken 3 months ago. I typed a resignation letter that was clean and professional and revealed absolutely nothing. I called my mother and told her the debt was cleared and listened to her cry and told her it was just a work bonus and I was fine. I was not fine. Priya came over and sat on my bed while I folded clothes and said nothing for a long time. Then she said, "I will go to that penthouse right now and say several things." "Please don't. Nadia. It was always going to end, Priya." I just let myself forget that for a little while. She didn't argue. She just held my hand while I packed, and that was the kindest thing anyone had done for me in months. That same night, 12 floors above me in an office he never really left, Marcus Reeves poured 2 glasses of scotch, set one in front of Cole, and sat down across from him. Marcus was the only person on earth Cole actually listened to. "Derek fabricated those emails," Marcus said. Cole didn't move. "I had our legal team pull the metadata on the files he showed you. They were created 3 weeks ago, Cole. Every single one. There is nothing real in any of it." Silence. "He's been doing this for years. The thing with Vanessa. Now this. He needs you alone and isolated so that when Edmund is gone there is no one in your corner." Cole stared at his glass. She's leaving tomorrow morning, Marcus said quietly. Flight is at 9. Cole said nothing for a very long time. Then he stood up and reached for his jacket. Marcus leaned back in his chair and picked up his scotch. Finally, he said to no one. I was at the departures gate with my boarding pass pulled up on my phone when I heard him. Not his voice. His footsteps. I know that sounds absurd, but I had spent 3 months living in the same space as Cole Ashford and I knew the particular rhythm of him. Purposeful. Never rushed. Except right now they were rushed. I turned around. He was there. No tie. Jacket slightly crooked like he'd grabbed it running. Hair not quite perfect for the first time in the entire time I had known him. He looked like a man who had made a decision and driven through early morning traffic to act on it before he could overthink it. He stopped in front of me. We looked at each other. The emails were fake, he said. I know, I said. Derek has been. I know that too. He exhaled. Then you know I was an idiot. I know that most of all. Something moved across his face. Not quite a smile. Something more fragile than that. I'm sorry, Nadia. Not the kind of sorry that comes with an excuse attached. I believed the worst about you because it was easier than admitting that you had become something I didn't have a contingency plan for. And when you left my office that night I felt it. I felt the whole room change. And I told myself that was manageable. He paused. It wasn't manageable. I didn't say anything. I needed him to finish. I fired Derek this morning. The board knows everything. Every employee he would have caught is protected. Every company is intact. He reached into his jacket. And I need you to have this. He held out a small envelope. I opened it slowly. Inside was a lease agreement. A studio space. In the building 3 blocks from the farm with the big north-facing windows I had mentioned exactly once on a London balcony at 1 in the morning when I told him about the art I had stopped making because survival kept getting in the way. He had remembered. Not the broad strokes. The specific detail. The north-facing windows. I had said it once. He had held onto it for weeks. My throat tightened so fast it hurt. I don't need you to stay because of the contract, he said. The contract is over. I need you to stay because when you are not in the room I notice the exact shape of where you are supposed to be. And I have spent too many years not saying the things that matter out loud. He looked at me steadily. You matter out loud, Nadia. I looked at him for a long moment. You drove through morning traffic for me. I would have run if the parking was worse. You look terrible, by the way. I am aware. Your jacket is crooked. I know. I reached up and straightened it. He caught my hand and held it there, against his chest, and I could feel his heart doing something very uncontrolled for a man who controlled everything. Stay, he said. Quietly. Just that one word. I looked up at him. You are going to have to do a lot better than a studio and a speech, Ashford. He almost smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. I have conditions. You always have conditions. Real ones this time. Name them. Dinner at an actual normal-sized table. You come to my mother's house for Christmas and you are warm about it. You tell me things. The real things. Not the edited version you give everyone else. Done. And you never go cold on me again. Whatever Derek or anyone else says, you come to me first. He looked at me with something so open it was almost hard to see. Done, he said. All of it. Done. I missed my flight. I did not care even a little. 3 months later the contract marriage became something neither of us had a legal term for. Just real. And chosen. And completely ours. Edmund Ashford had us over for Sunday dinner and spent the entire meal pretending he had no idea any of this would happen. Nobody believed him for a single second. He was absolutely delighted by that. Marcus said, "I told you so," 4 times over the course of one evening and looked deeply satisfied each time. Priya approved. It took her 6 weeks and one dinner where Cole told her without prompting that Nadia was the sharpest person he had ever met in any room. After that, Priya decided he could stay. Derek lost everything. The board removed him. The inheritance clause was satisfied. There was nothing left for him to take and nobody left who would let him close enough to try. And me. Nadia James, who packed one suitcase and booked a flight to nowhere because I was tired of being invisible, learned what it feels like to be so completely and specifically seen that you stop needing to disappear. Not because someone rescued me, but because I walked into a negotiation with nothing to lose and came out the other side with everything that mattered. The studio has north-facing windows. The light in the morning is extraordinary. And every single day, without fail, Cole Ashford brings me coffee without sugar and stays long enough to watch me walk. He never used to have a reason to say it out loud. Now he says it every morning. And every morning I believe him a little more. If this story wrecked you even a little, hit that like button right now because there is more where this came from. And if you know someone who needs a good love story today, share this with them. Drop in the comments which moment got you the most. I read every single one. And I will see you in the next story.